So, Sage, you're going to be giving your review for Alan Wake 2, the DLC Lake House. Take it away there, Sage.
Yeah, so this is the second expansion for the game and the last one. This will be the final edition. They also had an anniversary update that came out the same day that included like a costume from Alan Wake 1 that you could put on the character and a couple big patch bug fixes that were still kicking around. But we're kind of right here at this moment, truly and fully finished with this whole game. So the deluxe edition, season pass, whatever you want to call it, that got you all of the DLCs was $10, just 10 extra bucks. And now that we've gotten both of these expansions, in total, it's an additional, I'd say between 5 and 6 hours of gameplay, both of these expansions put together. So for as far as like what you get for your money in terms of video game DLC, this is pretty strong because most season passes usually it's like a $30 thing for the most part, and sometimes the amount of stuff you get for it, it doesn't even add as many hours as this. So I thought for as far as like value for your money right off the bat, I think very, very strong. But whereas the last DLC was a little more of a like, ooh, let's have fun, let's be like maybe extra lean into the cheesy elements of it, the more kind of over the top elements of it. This one leans harder into the horror side of the game. And so you play the character that does make an appearance already in the main base game, Agent Kieran Estevez, who's played by Janine Gavankar, who I'm sure you've seen her before. You've seen her in probably a million things. And she plays an FBC agent from the Federal Bureau of Control. And another nice thing about this DLC, same with the one before it, it's integrated into the base game. So you've already played the game, you can boot this up, go to the menu, go to the expansion tab, and then just play this DLC. But if let's say you haven't played the game before, you're just getting into it now, you are going to come to a point in the game where this is just going to come up, and you can just very organically move into this sequence, and you probably wouldn't even notice that it was a DLC if you were playing this like to next year or the year later, something like that, without having it like totally signposted to you. It's very, very organically kind of pulled into the whole experience, which is really, really cool that you have kind of both ways of accessing it. But so she comes to the town of Bright Falls here, right, where the Alan Wake stories take place. And before going into town to deal with kind of the situation that the main story of the game's all revolving around, she takes the detour to the lake house, which is a Federal Bureau of Control station that is built in the forest. Was built after the events of the original game so that the FBC could kind of keep tabs on what's going on in the area, do experiments and trials, and try and see what they can learn about what's going on here. And of course, you go in, you don't find anybody, right? Everybody's gone. Clearly, things are not right. And you get down, and it's like a ground floor is what you're seeing there, and then it goes like a bunch of floors deep underground. And so in some ways, this DLC is almost like a miniature version of the format of the game Control, which is kind of cool because that's the whole thing with Control is it takes place within the headquarters of the FBC organization, right? And so it's kind of that Metroidvania thing where every area has, you know, all this sub areas and stuff that's locked off until you get an upgrade and come back. And then this DLC it's kind of replicating like that format in a smaller package. So you have all these different floors. You'll find key cards. You have to go back to another floor to open up the next little part. And so they kind of capture that in a really cool way. Now, this also introduces not like massively, but there's a couple new gameplay things here that wasn't in the base game. One, you get a new weapon. That's incredibly cool. It's almost like shooting rock salt at ghosts. It's like a powder kind of shotgun thing. It's very cool, very fun. And then that goes up against a new enemy type that is presented here. Wasn't in the base game, wasn't in Control, totally new thing. Is these weird creatures that like they literally peel themselves off the wall wherever there's like paint splattered around, and they're literally, it's like they're made of paint to do these like real gangly looking, very tall things. Um, and it's a really great creature design. Adds something nice to the game, just something unique that we haven't really seen in this universe before. Just and especially with how many enemy types there are in, say, Control, this just adds to the nice kind of variety that we're seeing from this whole connected universe now. Um, I don't want to spoil too much of the story because you can play this in, I'd say if you take your time, 2 to 2.5 hours. If you are rushing through it, you can play it pretty quickly, but a lot of, the fun of these kinds of experiences is stopping to read all the documents, lots of like little tidbits of lore, um, set up for things in the future, perhaps. Control's DLC did a lot of great stuff setting up Alan Wake 2 story. I think this DLC absolutely is kind of setting up some elements for the story of Control 2, which I can absolutely can't wait for. I think it does some really great stuff that I definitely don't want to mention specifically. But if you're a Control fan, out of all the Remedy catalog, this DLC is definitely catering to that interest, I would say. Um, but yeah, I mean it's good stuff. You've got a few really good performances in here as far as the acting goes from FBC staff. That's unique to this facility. We haven't come across before. There's that painting creature right there. Super cool monster. Also like legitimately
And
a
that's the
little
weapon you were talking
harder.
about right there?
Yeah. There's a substance that is it comes up in the game Control. Within the headquarters, they actually have an entire quarry inside the building that is in like one of the, it's like a portal. They call them a threshold into like another dimension, and they mine this stuff called black rock out of this other dimension, and they use it to create like containment cells for like supernatural creatures or like cursed objects and stuff to kind of contain these things. And this gun is like somebody ground it up, almost like in Supernatural when they use like rock salt in their shotguns. It's like ground up black rock, and you're like shooting that at these things, and it like makes them like collapse in dust, almost like the vampires in Buffy used to. It's a really cool looking effect the way they kind of come apart. Um, and then also just the aesthetics of the whole thing on top of the paint creatures, because you have this motif of paint kind of scattered around, and they do a really good job of making that look creepy under the lighting. But also, Alan Wake is a very different kind of stylistic sensibility than
Hmm.
Control. It's all about the Pacific Northwest, and you spend a lot of time in these forests. And even Alan Wake 2, where half of it's in the nightmare dimension, that environment's very much the like kind of dark dream of New York, right? It's kind of the Max Payne setting a little bit. And then here in this DLC, it's fully like, no, this is we still have some of that Pacific Northwest kind of green, blue, dreary day color scheme that makes up Alan Wake, but you get the brutalist architecture of Control, the brutalist kind of liminal space office building environment. And it's an environment I think they just Remedy does such a great job with, and they make it so kind of weird, and like the environment itself like shifts around on you. So things that you like, you use an elevator to get to each floor, and elevator, you might turn around right after you get out, and the elevator is gone. You got to figure out where the hell that thing went. And so there's a lot of really good messing around with space and stuff, and yeah, it's a really solid DLC. I like the lore it adds. The gameplay is maybe a little harder than the main game. The resources are a little, you don't come by quite as many, so it's a good like miniature kind of example of kind of going further on the survival horror elements of the gameplay. So that's really cool. And the weapon's really cool, and the creature's really cool. The setup that it does for Control too is really cool. As far as like a DLC goes, I'd give this a total peak, especially because it's only $10 to get this and the other DLC. So as far as just how much money you're spending to get, again, like 5 to 6 hours more gameplay, $10 seems reasonable to me.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm seeing, yeah, about the length of it is, like you said, about 2.5 hours that you're gonna kinda get, out of this. Would you say it's better than Night Springs, about the same, a little bit weaker? What would you say?
Oh, it's interesting. So I think I like this one more between the two. Um, Night Springs is I think that was awesome and that was very fun. But I guess the real difference is Night Springs was, it's 3 episodes of the like, it's Night Springs is the TV show in the universe that these games take place in, and each of those episodes of that DLC were a script that Alan had tried to write in the nightmare dimension, and they were scripts that they basically failed as far as what his intention was, right? Because he's been trying to write himself out of this place in between the two games. And those were all like scripts that he tried and that they didn't work. And so they were like these little short stories. And there's some lore in them that is very interesting and does have implications on the world, but they're also a little bit more like a what if story. Like the events of each of those are not 100% concretely happening. Whereas the lake house is like very, no, 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 no. This is very much a piece of the concrete, this is what's going on story. And it ties up a couple little extra things in the that maybe weren't 100% clarified in the main game. And it feels like a better next step as far as, all right, what's next going on in this world, not just Alan Wake, but in the Remedy connected universe as a whole.
And this is the last DLC for Alan Wake 2 there, and they haven't hinted at any more DLC, anything like that. This
I'm
is
pretty sure this is confirmed to be the last thing.
okay. Alright. So, what would be your rating for the Alan Wake 2 DLC, Lake House?
Oh, I give this an absolute peak as a DLC. I think the only thing that would make it go higher would just be if it was a little longer and just gave a little more. But I think what's there is amazing. It's not very expensive to get this. It's a very good price for how much you're getting. I think its atmosphere is excellent, some of the best in the game, and it leads us into the future with Remedy as a company in general. I'm a huge fan of this game, of course, but I am also a big fan of Remedy in general, and they're building this very interesting, weird universe. And the Lake House is a really great connecting point. It's almost like Alan Wake and Control having a crossover episode, if you
Hmm,
think about it that way. So I give this a total peak.
awesome. So Sage for Alan Wake 2 DLC gives it a peak there, the lake house. So would you say if people are interested in this, would you want them to try out Alan Wake 2 first just to see how they feel about it, then move on to the DLC, or would you recommend them getting everything since it's only $10 for the DLC there, each of them? So
I'd
would you
recommend they just get everything at once,
Okay.
personally, especially because if you haven't played the game at all and you're thinking about giving it a shot now, if you just get everything, you start playing it, both Night Springs and the Lake House, all of that DLC is integrated into the game. So if you just start playing the game, start a new game, you will come across all of the DLC as you play through the game. So it's just going to come up organically. It's just going to be all one seamless experience. And the same thing is true of Control from 2019. The DLC for that was integrated into the base game so much so that I played Control again not that long ago with my cousin, and we went through like an entire one of the DLCs, and he didn't even realize it was a DLC because it was so naturally connected into the main story.
Hmm, okay. All right. So, high praise from Sage there with Alan Wake 2 DLC Lake House available now if you want to check it out. Yeah, awesome stuff there.